Do you remember comparative adjectives? We use comparative adjectives when we compare two objects. For example, this shirt is darker than the other shirt. We use this structure, verb to be plus the adjective in the comparative form plus than. Is darker than. Now, when we make an adjective, when we change it into comparative form, we have to follow different rules. Remember, you can add er, or you have to make some changes, or you use the word more. But today, let's learn about superlatives. When do we use superlatives? We use superlative adjectives when we want to compare one object to more than one object. Let me show you some examples. Here you have two balls. In this comparison, you will use a comparative adjective. Ball number 1 is more colorful than ball number 2. Remember, comparative adjectives, only two objects. Now, here you have more than two balls. Let's see a sentence with a superlative adjective. Ball number 2 is the most colorful of the group. Did you hear that? The most colorful. With superlatives, we don't use er, or we don't use more. Let's see what do we add to the adjective when we are comparing more than one object. So, superlative adjectives. Look at this chart. Rule number 1. To one-syllable adjectives, you add est to the adjective. So, you have the adjective old. In the comparative form is older, but in the superlative form is the oldest. Now, important thing, in superlative adjectives, we use the article the before the adjective. The oldest, not only oldest. Let's see another example. Big. Comparative, bigger. Superlative, biggest. Now, rule number 2. Adjectives ending in y. You will drop the y, change it for an I, and add est. For example, noisy. The comparative is noisier. The superlative is the noisiest. Another example, dirty. The comparative, dirtier. The superlative, the dirtiest. Rule number 3. Adjectives with 2 or more syllables. You are going to use the word the most. For example, boring. Comparative, more boring. But superlative, the most boring. Another example, beautiful. Comparative, more beautiful. But superlative, the most beautiful. Now, if you remember, we have some irregular adjectives. Let's see these irregular adjectives. comparative, worse. The superlative, the worst. Far. The comparative, farther. The superlative, the farthest. So these are the rules that you have to learn and remember when you are comparing more than two objects. Remember, if one is the greatest, si uno es mucho mejor que otros, you are comparing in the superlative form. Now, how are you going to ask questions about preferences? Let's learn how to create questions to ask for preferences. Look at these examples over here on screen. Which ball do you prefer? Which ball does your classmate prefer? Which ball do you like better? Which ball do you like more? To ask for preferences, you can use one of these structures. This is the base of the structure. Which plus auxiliary do or does plus prefer, like more, or like better. Which ball does your classmate prefer? Which ball does your classmate like better? Remember to use correctly do and does. Copy the structure in your